has really just been a soft place to land for me. And I'm going to cry just sharing about her, but she is such a safe place to land, a soft place to land. She's been through so much with me. And so we are colleagues and friends first and foremost, but I cherish my relationship with Lauren. And I think there's a safety and a trust there, just having been through some really painful, hard experiences together and also some really joyful experiences together.
Cool about Laura and I think why we work so well together. So yes, we're both like that highly sensitive piece, which feels both really safe to each of us. And then like Laura was saying, she's like a dreamer. She's like, the future is ours. And I am like a reflector. And I think that just is, I think it just works. I think it just.
Welcome to Sensitive Stories. This episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for treatment with a mental health or medical professional. Let's dive in.
So welcome, Laura and Lauren. I'm so happy to have you both here, our first duo on the podcast. I would love to start off by hearing your HSP Discovery Stories. So Laura, could you start off by telling us how and when you realized that you're an HSP?
I am trying to remember exactly how it came about. I had a phenomenal therapist when I first moved to Nashville. I've had the privilege of working with a few different providers in the Nashville area, just at different points in my own journey, from individual therapy and some couples therapy with my husband. And I think that I remember my first therapist here in town just talking about being a highly sensitive individual herself. And, we shared a lot in common and our stories were similar in ways and of course different in ways. But she was like, hey, there's actually this book that you should read. And then I remember like whenever a therapist has told me to read a book, I like go and buy it on Amazon that day and read it. And of course it resonated so deeply with me. I think I have it on my bookshelf right here. Yeah. The highly sensitive person. And so I read that book and then I was like, oh my goodness, this is me to a T. And then of course I'm the type of person that has to share it with everyone that I love and hold dear. And so I have a twin brother and he's actually an HSP as well. And so I first told him about it. And then I told Sean, my partner, about it and had him read the book so that he could better understand it. And then I like took some tests online. And ever since then I've known that I was an HSP and I really just identify with the description of being an HSP. I think there's like maybe one or two, I think one of the 20. So, I know you're more of the expert in this area, but you can take just different online quizzes. And there was like one or two that didn't fit for me, but pretty much every other criteria did, like feels emotions more expansively, like sees the beauty and the hardship. And I mean, like literally everything about an HSP, I'm like, check, 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 check. So I want to say that was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. And it's been a sweet part of my story just to be able to even like feel that the people that are in my life know me better and know how to support me better. And also like in my work with clients, like identifying it more readily has been cool too. So yeah, over the past 6 years, I feel I've really come into my HSP-ness.
I love it. And this is the first time I've heard someone say they have an HSP twin, which is so exciting to know.
Yep.
You were just shared a womb with a fellow HSP from the
Isn't
beginning.
that so funny?
That's amazing.
I am 30 seconds older than him and I never let him forget it. But anyway, I read this book and his name's Lee and he wouldn't mind me sharing this on the show, but I was like, Lee, you have to read this because I think I know you really well. And I think that this fits you. So we were, at my sister's college graduation a while ago when I was first learning about an HSP and the lights were really bright and the sound was really loud. And it was so funny because we both like walked out of the room and we were like, yep, this is our HSP. And not in a shit-face way, but just like, this is a little too much for us. We need to like take a step out. And so I think it's been really helpful to him as well, just to have that information. And it is a little funny, yeah, that we're both twins and we both have that same trait.
Yeah, it's so interesting. And I love that you said that. Like, it doesn't have to be a negative. It's just more of a matter of fact.
Sure. Yeah.
You just need to step away from this stimulation. It can be okay.
Yeah.
Right. And just knowing yourself. And I had a similar experience of I have to tell everyone. I remember I was a counseling trainee at the time, and everyone in the office I was sharing the self-test with, Dr. Aaron's self-test, and just, yeah, bringing as many HSPs in as I could. I
I
love it.
know that's it's like it's such a sweet, I think, quality about us, and
Hmm.
Lauren knows this about me. Whenever I like find a new thing in the therapy world or in the counseling world, I'm like, I have to tell everyone about it.
Exactly. You
Yeah,
want to share it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Lauren, and I want to hear from you as well. How
Yeah.
did or when did you realize that you're also an HSP?
Yes. So I had never heard of this idea of like highly sensitive person, that being kind of like a personality trait, if you will, until I started working with Laura. Laura actually introduced me to it and the idea. And hey, there's this book on it. And I have the book at home. Um, and so I started working with Laura almost 5 years ago. And so it was 5 years ago that um I think I got the book and I got on the website and I took the little test and all of that. And I was like, oh wow, this fits me as well. And so yeah, it was when I started working at Anchor that I discovered that I also, like Laura, am a highly sensitive person. And yeah, I think with the population that we work with a lot, we see it a lot in our clients. And so that is something that I tend to, if I'm noticing it, and my clients will kind of speak to and bring some awareness to and validate and all of that, because I think one of the ways that it's shown up just in my life and in my story is that it used to not be a good thing. And now it is a really good thing in terms of like how I've learned to, really love and accept that part of me. And it feels, I tell my clients, it's like, it's such a superpower when we can really hone it. And when we can really get to know our sensitivities. Um, because like you said, April, it helps us know ourselves. And how cool is that we can know ourselves better. So yeah, so 5 years ago. So
I love it. You're both kind of on a similar timeline, and it's so sweet when a friend introduces it to you and you can kind of share in that. And Lauren, I appreciate you saying that. It is a journey going from kind of a burden to a blessing when you're a
mhm,
highly sensitive person, and having allies, having community around it really makes a big difference. No, I'm not alone. There's nothing wrong with me. This is just a personality trait, right? This is a
mhm,
temperament trait. It doesn't have to be a negative. Yeah. I
mhm.
would love to hear a little bit more about the clients you serve. You mentioned that, how this is quite a good fit. And I was looking at your website. I was like, oh, yeah, I bet they do work with a lot of HSPs. Could you just share a little bit more about the people that you work with in your group practice?
Lauren, do you
Yeah.
want to cover it
Yeah.
since you
Yeah.
supervise the
Yeah.
team?
So we work a lot with clients with eating disorders,
Mhm.
disordered eating, body image concerns, um, kind of in that outpatient setting, at that outpatient kind of level of care.
Mhm.
Um, and then with that, we also collaborate with dietitians and doctors and that kind of thing,
Mhm.
particularly with clients with eating disorders. And so we find that clients who present with maybe more of a
Yeah.
restrictive type of relationship with food
Yeah.
tend to show up strongly with maybe that highly sensitiveness. And that's not the case for everyone, certainly. So I don't
Mhm.
want to overgeneralize. It can, it's a pattern we see for sure.
For sure.
So yeah, we work a lot with eating disorders. We see all kinds of other things too, grief,
Mhm.
anxiety, depression, OCD, work a lot with OCD.
Yeah.
That population can tend to be highly
Mhm.
sensitive as well. See a lot of like life transition, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's something interesting between the maybe correlation, if you will, between eating disorders um and the highly sensitive personality. And I know that's part of my story.
Mhm.
And when I reflect back on some different seasons in my life, I can see where my highly sensitive part um, was at play, and
Yeah.
it wasn't maybe serving me very well, or I didn't know that it was trying to serve me or whatever. And that was part of kind of my journey through an eating disorder, and then in recovery and out of recovery, and then and then coming back to myself. And so,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I kind of got on a tangent there, but I don't know, Laura, if you would add anything else about the clients that we see.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think, April, you probably see this as well. And I know we talked about this when you were on our show,
Mm-hmm.
but really just that like not knowing what to do with that emotion expression and that
Yes.
coming out sideways through these behaviors, whether it's compulsions and OCD or whether it's an eating disorder or other type of behaviors that the client maybe doesn't align with or doesn't align with their
Mm-hmm.
value system. And what I share with clients, yeah, most of our clients that we see here feel deeply. And so I'll use my hands a lot in session. Lauren knows this about me, but like, again, and we can tend to compare. So this is not meant to be a comparative kind of way of explaining this, but I think the general population feels like this, right? And then HSPs feel to this extent. And so a lot of times when our clients come to us, they've been shamed or criticized, or they just don't know how to regulate an emotion or feel an emotion in a way that, you know, helps them figure out what the underlying need is. And so that's where we come into play and we're like, hey, this is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And let's practice feeling in a way that serves you where you're not self-abandoning, like Lauren talked about. So we see
Mm-hmm.
that self-abandonment show up in so many different, you know, fashions and shapes and forms in the practice. But
Mm-hmm.
honoring this, right? This
Yes.
emotionality that's there. It's like, how can we honor that and name it and celebrate it even as this beautiful part of you? Like when I get home, Lauren knows my dog is Louie, and I just love my dog, and I of course love my baby too. But he'll lick my face, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you." And my husband's like, "Okay, yeah, there's Louie," and it's just different. Like it's not that he doesn't love the dog, but just the depth of the love that I feel for this animal and for my baby too, or just like deeper, I think. And Sean's a great person, but it just is a different, you know, way of feeling, I guess. So.
It really is. You know, when you feel so intensely, you're highlighting, it can be really beautiful. There's a lot of passion, a lot of love, excitement, but then the flip side is also true.
Yeah.
And what do we do with those emotions, especially if we don't have any tools, we don't have any supports? And so yeah, it comes out in that those restrictions. I see that a lot with whether it's an eating disorder, it's obsessions, it's, you know, severe anxiety, all those manifestations where you just don't know what to do with it, especially if they're even if you have other HSPs in your life, they may not know what to do either. And it has to go somewhere. Yeah, so
Right.
appreciate you all doing the work that you do and
Mm,
helping HSPs find a path
mm,
to just celebrate themselves, as you said, and
yeah.
know that this isn't. I think we start to realize, we start to think that this is it for us. We're stuck in these modes of being, and it's not true. There can actually be positive experiences as an HSP. You're not doomed to be constantly overwhelmed, anxious in these, you know, these states of mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. I think it's important to highlight these different experiences, and it's great to hear about the work that you all are doing in Tennessee. I am curious to hear a little bit more about when you two meet. How did you become friends, if you're open to sharing?
Yeah, so Lauren started with me almost, yeah, your work anniversary, as we call it here, is going on 5 years. Um, she has grown with me, and I have shared this on our podcast, but I have really done a lot of my own work, owning Anchored, and my own mental health journey, having employees, and all the things. And Lauren has really just been a soft place to land for me. And I'm gonna cry just sharing about her, but she is such a safe place to land, a soft place to land. She's been through so much with me. And so we are colleagues and friends first and foremost, but I cherish my relationship with Lauren, and I think there's a safety and a trust there, just having been through some really painful, hard experiences together and also some really joyful experiences together. One of the things that I tell any new staff member that joins Anchored is that I feel like I can take a deep breath around Lauren. Um, and that's been such a gift to me. And so, yeah, I've seen Lauren show up with integrity and character in so many different situations. You know, we have babies that are around the same age and love to play together. And Lauren supervises the team, and they just really I mean, it's such a blessing to be able to impart her wisdom and gentle guidance onto them. So there's lots I could say about Lauren, but yeah, I mean, we've been through a lot together, and I think time is a good tell too. I mean, I feel like we know each other really well. We have a lot of in common and similarities, and we also have our differences. um, so yeah, Lauren's just a phenomenal person and therapist and leader. She's changed me for the better, like knowing her. Um, so this is my ode to Lauren. But yeah, I mean, just a dear, dear friend and person and human being. So yeah.
It's so beautiful. I love how you said you can take a deep breath around her. Lauren is a soft place to land. We need those deep friendships. That's really
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh. Yes. Yeah, I can count on Lauren. And as we've grown together, Anchored has grown a lot since Lauren started because Lauren was technically our second therapist here. Beyond me. So I guess our third, but yeah, we've grown a lot. We've learned a lot together. We've been through hard times together. And I think that really is a testament to someone's character and integrity. And Lauren shows up so well for people. One of the things that I love the most about Lauren is I can tend to have a lot on my mind and with the business, like try to do all these things. And I never feel rushed when I'm with Lauren. I always feel that she sees me and knows me, even when I haven't been my best. Like I can show up authentically with Lauren and I don't have to apologize. Um, and that's been really a gift to me too. And she's been really healing too, just in terms of how I run the business over the past few years. And one of the things that I've celebrated in her too is her ability to challenge me when I need it, and that's been so beautiful. And I think that she's really stepped into that. Um, and I'm grateful for it. She tells me what she thinks in an honest, kind way. And I need that, because sometimes I can get on my little train track and go 100 miles ahead and I need to like pause the train a little bit. So I think that we balance each other out really well too, in that regard. And yeah, just forever grateful for her. She's changed me for the better.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of love in our
Yeah.
relationship, and yeah.
It's so beautiful. And did you two know each other before or you worked together? No, you just found each other.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
pretty phenomenal. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds like you've built a really beautiful friendship. And
Mhm.
like you said, you have to be able to have those hard conversations with people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. You share the positive experiences, but also being in the trenches with each other is so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lauren, I'd love to give you a moment if you have anything to add.
Yeah. So, yeah, Laura reached out to me just wanting to bring on a new hire. And I was fresh out of grad school, fresh out of my internship, and really didn't know exactly where I wanted to land. And it felt like such a cool kind of opportunity and moment that like someone was reaching out to me and wanting to get to know me as a possible therapist. And so yeah, I mean, we certainly started out as like boss, employee, whatever. But pretty quickly just became sweet friends and colleagues. And I mean, just echoing all the things Laura has said, she's just been a truly phenomenal leader and mentor to me. And I wouldn't be the therapist I am today if it weren't for Laura and just her supervision and her believing in me. And I think what's so cool about Laura and I think why we work so well together. So yes, we're both like that highly sensitive piece, which I think feels both really safe to each of us. And then like Laura was saying, she's like a dreamer. She's like, the future is ours. And I am like a reflector. And and I think that just is,
Yeah.
I think it just works. I think it just fits so well. And I think something that I feel just so grateful for that just feels invaluable to me is how much I've learned from Laura to dream, because that's not my tendency. I'm a 9 on the Enneagram, if anybody is an Enneagram person. And so I tend to kind of fall to the background a little bit, and Laura has just pulled something out of me that I didn't know was there, that um is this like leader and this like assertive person, and I don't know. So and I yeah, I find myself like dreaming about things and wanting these things for the future, and that's just been really cool, and a really cool thing to kind of see grow in myself. And so anyways, so thank you, Laura, for that.
Yeah, it's
But yes, our friendship is really sweet, and our work relationship is really sweet. We work really well together, and um, Anchored, it just means so much to both of us, and we just love what we do together so much. And so I think we're a good team.
yeah.
That really comes through. I think I mentioned this before we started recording, that you can just tell the two of you work so well together, and just seeing what you've been able to build and all the resources you've created. And it's just a testament to what can be possible in a safe relationship, right?
Right.
When you have that safe base, you get to unfurl those parts of yourself that maybe couldn't be seen before, or you can be influenced and inspired, and yeah, we need to complement each other. It's such a reminder that we need all types of people in the world, right? And
Yeah.
what's possible when we allow our strengths to kind of collaborate and come through. Yeah, it's clearly a beautiful friendship. Um, and Laura, I had read a blog, I think it was from you, on the Anchor Counseling site about friendship being kind of like an onion,
Yep.
which I just love that metaphor, and that you can have these different roles or levels of friendship. And clearly you two are, I mean, you're colleagues, you're also seem to be really close friends or have built a friendship over the years. But more, if you could speak to that. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves that friendships have to be at a certain level,
Yeah.
or especially as HSPs, because we want to go deep, we want, we just have certain expectations of ourselves. So I
Yeah.
wonder if we could talk a little bit more about what are the different levels or roles of friendship in our
Yeah.
lives as adults.
Yeah, and I do want to name, Lauren and I do have this like dual relationship kind of piece as well, and one thing that I've tried to do, and I'm even thinking of like, oh my goodness, when was the last time we did this? And we probably need to name this again. But like, there is this like, yes, I own the company, Lauren, and so there is this power piece, but we try to talk openly about it. And I do tell Lauren, our capacity has changed as the company has grown. So in full transparency, and even I've changed around that dual relationship piece, right? Having future employees. And so, Lauren and I think Lauren does a beautiful job of, being so kind with the therapists on the team, and also having those boundaries in place, which can be hard because I think both of our nature is to like be friends with everyone. You know what I mean? So there's been growth, I think, for me in that. Um, as well. And I tell Lauren that I'm grateful that she started when she did before I did some of that growth. But yeah, I mean, around the pieces of the onion, I think one of the things that maybe I falsely believed was that I had to be best friends with everyone that I came into, an encounter with, if you will. And one of the things that I've learned over the past few years is that we can have different levels of friendship and different types of friends in our lives. Like, people that know us inside and out would be maybe closer to like the core of the onion versus maybe an acquaintance that we get coffee with every other month. And then accordingly, we also build safety and trust based on the layer of the onion. And so I'm not going to necessarily share with the person that I see every 2 or 3 months my deepest, most vulnerable things, because they haven't earned that privilege or that right or that access into my inner world. Whereas Lauren, I was speaking to her character and integrity. She's been with me 5 years. And so it is safe for me to vulnerably express myself. And then if I need to apologize or kind of course correct, I will with her. But there's a felt safety. There's actual like proven safety there, where we have been through those experiences together, where each of us has been vulnerable and we've been held through that without judgment, without shame, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really the onion. And there's lots of different ways to think of it. You can think of it like an onion and kind of peeling back the layers. A tree is another kind of analogy I'll use around like, friendships that maybe are more seasonal, and we're in fall right now as we're recording, right? So when you think about the leaves falling away and that being okay, and I know Lauren can speak to this as well, but I think a little bit less, like you said, the pressure and expectations for everyone to be these core friends is just too much. And it's unrealistic for our lives, right? When we're working or have partners or children or whatever. And it's not sustainable for all of our friends to be our core friends, if you will. So that's one of the reasons I wrote that blog, was just to kind of give clients permission to think about, you know, who fits into what categories and why is that?
Yeah, I'll check in with you, Lauren, if you wanted to add anything to that piece, anything from your perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I love both of those kind of metaphors or images, if you will. And they certainly ring true for me in my adulthood. I think, when we're younger, growing up, we can tend to naturally just have a lot of friends and have a lot of people around us in middle school and high school, that kind of thing. And then maybe even college. I think into adulthood, it can sometimes feel a little bit trickier to navigate friendships, especially if you're trying to make new friends and try and keep old friends. And then you also have all of the things that go along with being an adult and responsibilities and jobs. And so it can feel like a hard thing to juggle, especially if there are unrealistic expectations that we're holding or kind of internalizing around what our friendships should look like or should be like, or how many we should have and how close we should be with them. And so, I think for me in adulthood, learning to as the nine, as the peacekeeper, as the people pleaser, the one who doesn't want anybody to be mad or upset. I think something that in adulthood that I've really learned and grown around in my friendships is really learning and challenging myself essentially not to feel like I have to keep the peace with everybody, especially friends, especially people who are supposed to be safe, right? Are the ones who are really safe to me. That I really value being friends with people, whatever layer they're at, and maybe whatever branch they're at, or whatever the metaphor you want to use, that I can show up authentically. And me being authentic, I've learned, means that I can't keep the peace all the time. And so that's felt really important for me and how I've learned to kind of navigate friendships and to adulthood. Because the reality is that, yeah, I do still have really great friends a couple really great friends from college or high school. And the reality is that they live in different states and we just don't talk all the time. And I know that we can catch up, once a year, and we can pick up where we left off, and that's safe, and that's fine. And there's not going to be resentment there. Nobody's going to be mad at anybody. And so, and then allowing friendships where there has been maybe a dysfunctional kind of pattern, allowing them to run their course and maybe naturally end when they've needed to.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is that natural kind of transition from maybe in the inner core to the outer core as we grow and our lives change and we move away from each other. And that's okay. That makes sense. But it sounds like only keeping those people in your sphere when it's authentic, when you can both accept that this is the dynamic now. Because I definitely had friendships where there's a lot of pressure to be more than that when it just didn't make sense and it no longer felt safe. And then there's those times where things just kind of organically fall away. But I'm wondering, when do we need to consciously move a friend to the outer edges or out completely? When do we know this is not a safe friendship anymore? I can't be myself. I'm just curious if you could speak to a little bit more about what that looks like, because I think HSPs really struggle with ending friendships. And we play that peacekeeper role a lot of the times that you talked about, Lauren, or that people pleaser, and we don't end friendships when we should. So I'm just curious if you could speak to that. How do we know it's time?
Yeah. I think, or I wonder if it kind of comes back to, we first have to be really familiar with ourselves or really aware of ourselves and what we're feeling, what our opinions are, what our thoughts are, what our needs are, what our experiences, what safety to us, to me means, because all of those things as an HSP are there, like they're big, we feel them. I don't know. I think it can feel maybe sometimes scary to get close to that. And so becoming really aware of what those things are telling us and the information we can gather from the experiences we're having, from those places of sensitivity can be really informative in what needs to happen in a friendship, or how a friendship maybe needs to evolve, or a conversation that needs to be had, or whatnot. Because like I said, I think that just can speak so much to how each of us individually experience safety. And ultimately, if a relationship maybe doesn't feel safe anymore, that can be such an indication that maybe this friendship is no longer serving me. So I think, yeah, really, I think a lot of it, or at least maybe even for me, comes down to, do I know myself first?
Yeah.
That's such a good reminder. Yeah. First know who you are and what safety is for you. Because you're right, it's different for all of us. What's safe for one person is not for another. So that's such a good reminder. Like that's the foundation where we need to start from. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would add too, I think that's like just such an excellent point, Lauren. And knowing yourself first is that foundation, right? And then practically, if you're listening today, I think it's like, okay, repeated violations of trust, of boundaries, especially for HSPs, right? So like as an HSP, I cannot commit to, and I have a little one at home and all these things, right? So I cannot commit to things socially during the week, maybe more than like one thing a week, right? And if I commit and realize I actually need to go home because my nervous system needs more regulation and needs like a hot bath, there needs to be like a mutual respect there. And so this is kind of a tangent, but I think when we've done our work as HSPs, so what I mean by that is, our therapeutic work and knowing yourself well, you respond well to another person's boundaries, or that would be ideal, right? Is like, yeah, I actually have to go home. I can't make it tonight. And how the other person on the other side receives that and then how they respond to that, I think is really telling. And so that person might even be an HSP and not know it, but still respond poorly, right? So I think that's like practical, kind of just really analyzing how other people respond to our boundaries, how other people communicate with us, their kind of perception and even tolerance of emotion. I think those are practical things that can help us figure out, is this person safe for me? Is this person someone that I maybe need to like spend a little bit less time with? I also love thinking about like how I feel before, during, and after. We use this skill a lot. Like I spent time with someone. Am I dreading spending time with someone? And if I am, what's that about? During, how do I feel? Do I feel like withdrawn? Do I feel shut down? Do I feel discouraged? And then afterwards, how do I feel? When I spend time with Lauren, I feel rejuvenated. I feel uplifted. And even if the content of what we're talking about is hard, there is a sense of like, we are in this together and we're going to figure this out. I feel encouraged. I feel equipped, versus if I'm maybe with a friend that doesn't really truly see me or hear me or understand me, I maybe feel more discouraged or disheartened or, criticize, whatever it might be. And those check-ins, like Lauren was talking about with yourself, I think can be really helpful. So how do I feel before spending time with this person? How do I feel during? And how do I feel afterwards? And being intentional about naming that for ourselves with our friends can be really fruitful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It can be as simple as a quick check-in. Let me take a
Sure.
baseline before, and then how am I doing after? And then even before, do I feel depleted? Do I feel misheard or misunderstood? Do I feel dismissed? So knowing yourself, but then seeing how those friendships are impacting that base. It's so important then to really listen to that and
Yeah.
trust it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear, so once we start to do that work of reflecting, who am I? What do I need in friendship? But then once we find those people that we do feel safe with and we want to invest time with, how do we make space energetically to nurture? So I know you two, obviously, you can tell that you find time for that, you prioritize it. It seems like just in your relationship. But how can we do that as HSPs when we have limited bandwidth?
Mm.
That's a good question.
I know it's a big one.
I'm like, I don't know, but take it day
I
by
know, like,
day.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, truly, that's the first thing that came to mind is taking it day by day, right?
Yeah.
So a dreamer and planner, like when I can want to tend to plan out, like I'm already thinking like what I'm going to do in 2025. It's just how I'm wired. And I think this idea of coming home to yourself is really just that mindfulness of what is my capacity today. Um, we took our little girl to like a little petting zoo on Saturday, and Sunday I found like I just really wanted to like sleep and take a nap and like do nothing and sit on my couch, right? Because like I was a little bit depleted and it was so much fun, but I think it's recognizing what the need is and then honoring it, like we've been talking about on this show. Um, and I do think some of that we can't necessarily predict because life happens, right? Grief happens, unexpected things are thrown our way. And how we deal with that, I think, is really important. So I think that takes mindfulness, it takes intention, especially as HSPs, if our capacity when we're paying attention might not be as big as someone else's.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so true that we have to have those counterbalances and there has to be
Yeah.
room for things to shift. Because yeah, you might be excited to go to the petting zoo or to this event or this social gathering, but then you have to have a balance the next day or the next week. And some days you might be excited about something, but then you just don't have the energy. And so needing to shift things and make space for it. Yeah, I'm curious to hear, Lauren, your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the question, right? I mean, yeah, day by day, I think again, do I know myself? Do I know what my capacity is? Have I kind of taken that inventory? Have I checked in with myself? And can I give myself permission to maybe when I have made plans, if I get to it and I can't do it or I don't have capacity at the time to put my hand up and say, hey, I can't make it, or um, I, yeah, these plans aren't going to work for me today. And learning how to have those boundaries. Because I think another thing that can be hard for the highly sensitive person is maybe the fear of like setting a boundary and how somebody else is going to react or respond. And again, that can speak to like the safety in the relationship, like Laura was mentioning. And so I think that's some of the work that, we get to do, maybe whether you're HSP or not, is like learning those good boundaries and with self and with others. But yeah, I mean, the bandwidth piece is tough, because we're all different and we all have different levels of capacity. And so it's just being really good at knowing what yours is and honoring that. I think that's the key there is just, can I honor myself first? And that's okay. And like having permission to do that
Yeah.
is important.
Well,
Yeah.
because when we think about like health, right, and how other people, I know that like we're all so unique, but if I cancel on someone or if someone cancels on me, my hope is that my response is like, oh my gosh, I totally understand.
Yes.
And like would love to see you. Like, please go take care of yourself. And
Mhm.
I think we take it as we get healthier and grow, it's less personal, right? Like versus like maybe before we do therapy and it feels more personal or so deeply attached to our self-worth, we see those boundaries that Lauren's talking about as like, a healthy thing and we can respond
Mhm.
in ways that are healthy and supportive to the friendship um versus going to a place in our minds like they don't want to spend time with me or they don't like me, like
Mhm.
maybe it's not
Mhm.
even about us, maybe they just really
Mhm.
just need time. And I think that takes effort to get there, especially if we are more sensitive. We can be
Mhm.
like, oh, we haven't done our
Yeah.
work, we can maybe feel some feelings about that, and that's okay. But I think how people respond to that is really telling as well.
Absolutely is. And there's safety in that if someone can hear and respect your boundary and
Right.
know it's not personal. It's just there's a lot of pieces in our lives that need to fit together. And sometimes we need to make shifts to, keep ourselves above or afloat, right? To keep things sustainable. Yeah, there's a need for that. So I want to end our conversation today with just asking you each, what's a message you could leave for HSPs who are wanting to create deeper connections in their lives?
Yeah.
I mean, Lauren, do you have a thought?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing that comes to mind, and I kind of said this at the beginning, so I'll just repeat it. Your sensitivity is good. And it if you allow it can really help you and can really serve you in a lot of different ways. Just, stay present in your life, to stay connected with people around you, to stay aware of what's going on for you. So yeah, your sensitivity is a good thing. And you can use the information that your sensitivities are giving you to inform you of what you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that. It's true. We get so much input from
Yeah.
being more perceptive, intuitive, emotional. We can really use that to know what you need, who's safe for
Yeah.
you, where you can show up or where you pull back. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
such a it's such a gift. Thank you for that
Yeah.
reminder.
Yeah. I think just tagging along with what Lauren said, I think just that word honoring came up a few times in today's episode. Just, you know, I I can honor this trait about myself. Um, and maybe just even giving yourself time to figure out what your bandwidth is, what your capacity is, and also giving yourself permission for it to change. I know
Mhm.
since becoming a mom, my bandwidth has changed. And instead of criticizing that or shaming myself for that, I can acknowledge it and figure out what I need, like Lauren was talking about. But yeah, the highly sensitive people, I mean, I know I'm a little bit biased, but I think that we're a gift to this world. And I think that for anyone listening, if you're new to figuring out what a highly sensitive person is, it's just like, it's such a cool, amazing thing. So yeah, thanks, April.
Yeah, thank you both. I really appreciate that reminder that we have permission to change.
Mhm.
Whatever it is that you're focusing on, you can change the people, the situation, how you see yourself, and we don't have to stay stuck. Right? There's a lot of opportunity as sensitive people to. I mean, we feel so deeply. It's such a gift. You get to feel all the positive emotions too. Let's not forget that.
Mhm.
And we can really lean in and just look what's possible with connection. Being in friendship, in community with someone, it's so rich and rewarding. And you two are a clear example of that, of what's possible. And I felt that in my own life with people where it's such a gift. And I
Yeah.
just, appreciate you both being on the podcast today.
Wow.
So I
Such
will
an honor.
be,
Thank
yeah,
you.
this is lovely. I love
Yeah, great.
hearing both of your stories and getting this, just kind of getting a glimpse into your relationship was really beautiful. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
This
of
is the first
course.
time we've been asked as a duo to be on a podcast. So
Oh,
thank you
really?
so much. Yes. We were so excited. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I just think of you just as a beautiful example of friendship. And I was like, oh, I have to have them both on at the same time.
So kind.
Yeah, so I'll be sure to share all the amazing resources that you both have, your Anchored Counseling site for folks who are in Tennessee, are looking for support. Also, your Becoming Anchored podcast, your courses, your social media. There's so many beautiful resources there. And I saw that you also have a couple great courses on friendship, on boundaries, relationships. Could you just tell a little bit more to listeners about the resources there, maybe about your podcast or the other resources that you have there on Becoming Anchored?
Yeah. So I know that we had you on our podcast
Yes.
about a month ago. So that's
Mhm.
the Becoming Anchored podcast, like you shared. Lauren and I are co-hosts for that. So sometimes I host, sometimes Lauren does, sometimes we do it together. But really, the Becoming Anchored podcast was actually Lauren's idea. And it's been such a fun, rewarding avenue for us to spend time with people and meet people across the country like yourself, that we just really look up to and respect and admire. So it's been just another outlet for us as therapists to do something different than direct client care. And I think that just enriches our work to like learn from other people. And then we have a blog on the Becoming Anchored site. We also do have some like products. We talk about like being anchored in hope. So we can be
Yeah.
anchored in lots of different things. And just with the nature of our work as therapists, I think a lot of times people can feel that they've lost hope. And then, yeah, we're building out the courses. Lauren might do one actually in the new year. So we're building out just all the courses. I've been working on, teaching therapists about how to treat body image and perfectionism and all the things. So that's going to continue to grow. But for now, we do have that course on friendship that I did. And I think there's just a kind of a need for, hey, like this is something I wish I had had 10 years ago. And the hope here is too that it's a little bit, I know therapy can be quite costly. And so it's just another avenue to provide support to
Mhm.
clients. So yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, there's so many great resources for folks that aren't in Tennessee that want to work with you in different ways. And
Yeah.
I love that message, anchored in hope. That's really beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. And yeah, I look forward to connecting again soon.
Yes. Thank you, April.
Thank you.